Hello everyone, I'm bringing you a video today looking at something a little bit different, and that's this. And this is an example of Irish Army or Irish Defence Forces issue 3/4 collar body armour. Now these covers seem to appear in the mid-1970s and are used through certainly the end of the 1980s, I think into the 1990s. And they seem used extensively during the Troubles by men on border patrol and so forth, and internal security duties. And for that reason, I was very interested to pick up an example of one of these. And I actually ended up picking up two covers rather. We have obviously one cover with filler on the mannequin here. We'll talk a little bit about the peculiarities of the filler and so forth a bit later in the video. We have a close-up look at this off the mannequin. But there were two covers, as I say. I've actually swapped the filler into this one because this cover is in better condition, so it's the better one to have a look at on the mannequin. We'll have a look at the other cover when we have a look at the various details off the mannequin in a little bit as well. In terms of the design of the cover, it's very similar to the original sort of US 3/4 collar design in terms of the placement of the pockets, the concealed closure down the front, but there are various detailed differences, and one of the major differences is it's not made of nylon. This is made of a cotton sateen, basically the same material as the 1960 pattern combat uniform, which of course was originally British design, but the Irish manufactured it and used it as well. And it's, as I say, basically the same green cotton sateen that you would see used for that combat uniform. It's not a man-made material. It does appear to be pure cotton from the feel of it and the way it's faded and so forth, and quite distinctive from that perspective. You do, as I say, earlier in the early 1970s through into the mid-1970s see US body armour being used, including the US covers, but from the mid-1970s, late 1970s onwards, you predominantly see these, along with another pattern of body armour which is a little bit different, which appears in the late 1980s, which is something I can't remember if I've covered on the channel previously or not, but it is a change that you see. There's a new pattern of body armour introduced around that time. So this cover, as I say, very similar to the US design in terms of the layout, but it does differ beyond that. We have the two pockets on the front here. Obviously in the original US design these are closed with snaps. In this case we have the same type of buttons as used on the Irish combat uniform, used to close each of these, but they are angled and so forth in a similar manner to the US original. You have a button flap over the front here. I undo the top button here. You can see that conceals a heavy duty brass zip underneath there, so that the flap is purely there to conceal the zip which closes the front of this. Button that back up again. In terms of the overall design, the shape of this and everything is basically per the US 3/4 collar body armour, which of course was used extensively by the British Army during the Troubles as well, with various different covers. The filler itself, you've got the same design of collar there, the same shape to this, and as we'll see, the same design of lacing and so forth at the sides as well. We'll start moving this around now and have a look at some of the other details which we can see. Moving this around to look at the right hand side here, you can see that there's lacing down the side, which is similar to the original US design. As you can see, the eyelets are simply through another section of sateen material that's been sewn on each side. So there are two sections of sateen material separate from the cover itself, which the eyelets have been put in, and then these have been sewn on to provide for the lacing down the side there, as you can see. So there is some adjustment here. That's one thing to note there. You can see the height of the collar quite clearly at the side there, and in terms of construction, you can see the seam coming down here on the shoulder here. The cover itself is manufactured in a similar way to the US covers in terms of where the seams are and so forth as well, which makes sense. You're basically creating something which is the same shape, so the seams and so forth are going to be in a similar places when trying to make something which conforms to the same shape as the US cover. Looking at the back here, you can see this comes a little bit further down the back than it does at the front, which is typical of this design of body armour. Otherwise, you can see big plain panel on the back here. You can see the stitching for the collar there. Not a huge amount more to see here. There's not really much more to see on the other side because it is just a mirror image of what we've seen here with the lacing on the right hand side. So I'll turn this inside out now, or flip it round, so you can see the internal details where you insert the filler in this and so forth. So as you can see, this doesn't hang as well on the mannequin when it's turned inside out, which is not surprising, but it does give chance to look at the internal details. I've not been able to find any markings in this, and no inspection stamps, date stamps, that sort of thing, which is a shame. I was hoping there would be something, but there isn't. You can see the details here of the zip, the zip that closes this down the front, and then obviously you have the buttons and the flap to conceal the zip there. There is one button missing which I will need to replace, which I will get onto at some point. It doesn't affect how it displays on the mannequin for the present. That's the inside of the front of this. By way of completeness, we'll have a look at the side here just to show you the details of construction there, but there really isn't a huge amount more to see here. The more interesting part is at the back, and we'll have a look at that now. So the only marking in this doesn't appear to be a manufacturer's stamp or anything. It's a paint or an ink stamp that's been added after the fact, I believe, which is 2CB. I don't quite know what that would relate to. I've had a bit of a think and I can't really work out what that would mean. So if anyone knows, I'd be interested to know. If anyone is ex-Irish Army and could perhaps let me know what this marking means, I'd be very interested to hear from you. And then we have a zip here. You can see down the bottom here, if I just peel back the satin cloth, you can see a heavy duty brass zip in there, and the actual pull of the zip itself is concealed under this little flap, and this is how you gain access to the interior of this to push the filler up inside, which we will have a look at in just a moment. We'll, as I say, remove this from the mannequin and we'll have a look at some details with it laid out on the blanket. Some of the details we can't easily look at in the video here with it on the mannequin. We'll remove it and have a look at some of the details we couldn't otherwise see. So this is the body armour we had on the mannequin, and the main reason for showing you this here is to talk a little bit about the filler. The filler that's inside this was inside another cover which we're going to have a look at in just a moment, which I've already mentioned, which has some detail differences compared to this, which is why I've kept hold of both, and why I want to show you the other cover with no filler in it, just to run over those differences. That one's slightly damaged, so I took the filler out of it and put it in this. So just to be clear, the filler we're looking at inside this is how I found it inside the other Irish cover we're going to look at. I've put it in here for now because this outer cover is in better condition. So we'll open this up and we'll have a look at what was inside of the other cover when I received it. There's that marking again. Anyone who knows what that means, I'd be interested to know. As I say, I've not been able to find any other markings in this. A friend of mine does have an example with a label in the collar, interestingly. But what I found inside the other cover and what I've now put inside this one is a full covered set of US 3/4 collar body armour. And you can see here, this green nylon material is the outer covering. And we'll see a close-up in just a moment, still in just a minute, showing you the label of this US set of body armour. I was expecting just to find the nylon filler, which is removable from this nylon cover. You can do it, it's removable. I was expecting to just find the filler, the ballistic nylon filler, within this cotton cover, but no. It's seemingly, or let's say this cover, the other one we're going to look at, was a cover used over the top of the nylon cover of the 3/4 collar body armour to prevent wear and tear. I don't know. Whether that's originally how this was done, I don't know. Again, it's possible that the US body armour was put inside the other cover by someone to pad it out for display or for some other reason. I don't know. But it seems possible that these cotton outer covers, these sateen outer covers, were intended to be used to protect this nylon cover. So you put the entire set of US body armour minus the lacing inside the outer cotton cover. It changes the look somewhat as well, I guess. It reduces the shine a little bit. Whether that was the way these were intended to be used, I don't know for sure, but it's just an interesting point to note here. And we'll have a look at a still here of the label of this US body armour, which I found inside the other cover, which we're going to have a look at in just a moment. You can see the details there. The DSA gives a date of 1969. So it's just an interesting thing to note. As I say, this, if you had some lacing, this nylon cover that I found inside the outer cover, the outer cotton cover, it's perfectly usable on its own. It has all the fixtures and fittings, it has pockets, etc. Very similar to those of the cotton cover. And we've actually looked at an example of one of these US 3/4 collar sets of US 3/4 collar body armour on the channel previously. As I say, I just don't know. It seems odd, but it's possible that this is how things were done at the time. So you have that nylon cover inside here. I've just left that as is. So zip that up again, fold this back up just to give you another shot, sort of close up of how this looks. We'll move on now to have a look at the second cover, which came with this lot, which, as I say, originally had the filler in, but I've now put the filler inside this one because this cover is in better condition. So for display, it works better. I can always switch them back if I want to, of course. So this is the other cover which came to me, and I must apologise, it's quite bulky, so I'm quite large, of course, so I'm just not managing to get the entire thing in shot here, but you'll be able to see the detailed differences anyway looking at this. First thing to note is the damage on the pocket here, which is a shame. I'm going to do my best to repair this sort of as subtly as possible, let's say. This, as I say, had the US body armour inside it when it came, and I've swapped them over, of course. Concealed buttons down the front again, as we saw before, but as you can see, the buttons run on this strip of webbing here. There's a strip of webbing on this side, which basically forms the flap for the zip on the front. You can see where the zip is stitched onto these sections of webbing or herringbone tape, really. And the same is true, lots of buttons missing, of course, as you can see. But the same is true of the side here, where the lacing eyelets run down the side, and we have the remnants of some lacing here on each side. There's a section of black shoelace there on this side. It's herringbone tape or webbing again, rather than being the cotton, the sateen as we saw on the other one. The other one is basically entirely made of cotton sateen. This has the tape used in place of that on the sides here for the eyelets and of course for the zip as well. So just a detailed difference in terms of manufacture. The collar and everything, as we can see, is basically as we saw before. It's a 3/4 collar body armour cover. The actual design of the cover is basically the same, but for these detail differences. One thing I'll note here inside, again, there are no markings in this, but there is a tear in the collar here. And as I said, a friend of mine has an example with a label up in the collar, which I think it was Tractor brand, which may be a brand that made overalls and other things like that. It's possible the label's been torn out of here. Certainly this tear in the stitching sort of corresponds to where you might expect to find a label in the collar. So we don't know who the manufacturer was and no other details of this, but it is there's a possibility there was a manufacturer's label there at one point. One other thing to note here is that you again have the heavy duty brass zip along the bottom there for gaining access to the filler in this. And as I say, this had that US body armour inside it when it arrived, so just an interesting detail to note. But I just wanted to show you this as well because there are these slight variations in the manufacturing of this, which I thought were worthy of note. So there it is. That's the second cover which arrived as part of this lot. So I hope you found it interesting looking at this. As I say, something a little bit different, and this will no doubt feature in mannequin videos going forward. I'm certainly hoping that will be the case, and possibly in some recreations as well. I'm quite keen to put the kit on once I've got my FAL sorted out, basically to Irish spec. That'll be quite nice to do at some point going forward. The Irish Defence Forces, the Irish Army involvement in the Troubles is something I find quite interesting, obviously on the other side of the border, and not only on border patrols, but also, as I say, in internal security duties in the Republic as well. So quite interesting from that point of view, or certainly I find it to be. And picking up bits of kit like this is brilliant. It's really nice to sort of build that part of the collection and allows for interesting displays and interesting mannequins. As I say, going forward, all being well, there'll be a mannequin including this to look at in the not too distant future. As I say, if you have found this interesting and you'd like to see more of this sort of thing, please do consider subscribing to the channel if you haven't already. And whether you're newly subscribing or you've previously subscribed, please do make sure you hit the little bell, the notification button down below. That will of course alert you when I upload future videos. If you really like my uploads and you'd like to support the channel, you can. Both Patreon and PayPal are linked down below. And as I always say, a huge thank you to everybody who supports the channel using those two methods. It really is greatly appreciated. A big thank you to all of you. Thank you all very much indeed. If you'd like to follow the channel on social media, you can. Facebook, Instagram and Twitter are all linked down below. And if you'd like to get in touch but you don't really use social media, there is of course an email address in the description as well. That's everything for this video. So until next time, bye for now.